All right, welcome to this evening's meeting. We are going to have our invocation by Apostle Maris Cummings from Kingdom of Life Center in Fayetteville, Georgia. It will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from retired Sergeant First Class, Harry E. Williams. If you would, please stand with me.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you on this evening and we submit our hearts, we submit our minds, we submit this atmosphere so that you can take full and total control on this evening. Father, every decision that needs to be made, allow it to line up with your will. And we thank you right now that you would intervene in those things that we do not come into agreement with and on. And we thank you for allowing us to come and enter into workable solutions that will impact and imprint and transform this community for your glory. Amen.
Amen. Sergeant. Is he here?
For God and country, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 3rd Board of Commissioners regular business meeting. Our first order of business is adoption of the agenda. Do any commissioners have any amendments?
Yes, Madam Clerk, I have a request for a procurement item. I would ask Ms. Carol Rogers come forward to present it. It's an emergency item based on the fact that if we don't pass it, this meeting, we'll lose the pricing for the Tahoes, which we are requesting. So it would cost us more money.
Exactly. Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. The item is a recommendation for award off the statewide contract for 20-75. It's for the purchase of 15 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe Pursuit vehicles. The recommendation is to use the statewide contract. The vendor is Hardy Chevrolet, located in Dallas, Georgia. The purchase is for 15 2002 Pursuit vehicles, 10 in the amount of $32,588 each, 5 in the amount of $36,194 each. So the total amount of the purchase is $506,850. Funding is available through the general fund and the SPOS 2015 account. My request is for you to approve the recommendation, authorize the chairman, his designee, to execute all necessary documents to accomplish the intent of the contract, and authorize the chief financial officer to amend the budget accordingly.
So again, this recommendation or request is from the Chief of Police, Kevin Roberts. Should we not pass it, the time will elapse and the markup on the vehicles will be substantial. So that's the request for the emergency item. I'm going to place that as a motion to place it on the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any questions? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other amendments?
All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Our next item of business is the Veteran of the Month.
All right, our Veteran of the Month is Sergeant First Class Harry E. Williams. Harry E. Williams earned a Desert Storm Bronze Star for his service in the Gulf War. He also received the ARCOM Defense Service Medal for the 18th Airborne Corps. During his military career, he served as a PAC supervisor, graduated from the NCO Academy, and was PAC sergeant over a battalion brigade. Sergeant First Class Harry E. Williams has also served the community as a minister for the Church of Christ, as an elder in the church. He oversaw the sick and shut-in ministry, in which he has visited numerous members of the church in the hospital, senior homes, and at home as he comforted their illness. He also comforted those who were in their final hours. Sergeant First Class Williams is a devoted husband of 50 years, a husband of 3 children and grandchildren, and of 6 great-grandchildren, who loved and cherished them deeply. He is greatly respected in the community and deeply loved by many. Please help me recognize and honor Sergeant First Class Harry E. Williams. Again.
Are the social workers here from CCPS? Social workers from CCPS, Clayton County Public Schools?
Okay. Our next proclamation is a proclamation for March is Procurement Month.
Clayton County Board of Commissioners observes March 2020 as Procurement Month. Whereas the Clayton County Central Services Department has a significant impact on the quality, efficiency, and effectiveness of Clayton County government through its centralized procurement system, and whereas the Clayton County Central Services Department recognizes, supports, and practices the public procurement values and guiding principles of accountability, ethics, impartiality, professionalism, service, and transparency established by the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing as fundamental tenets of the public procurement profession. And whereas the month of March has been designated as Procurement Month by the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing, and purchasing organizations throughout the world engage in efforts during the month to inform the public about the important role performed by procurement professionals. And whereas the Central Services Department will host a vendor speed networking on March 11th, 2020, designed to accelerate business contacts through facilitated introductions and conversations. And whereas the Clayton County Central Services Department scheduled a procurement open house and requisition training for March 18th, 2020 to further expand awareness and procurement functions and opportunities in Clayton County. And whereas the Clayton County Central Services Department will host a workshop on requests for proposals on March 31st, 2020 to discuss the RFP process with Clayton County. And therefore I, Jeffrey E. Turner, Chairman on behalf of the Clayton County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2020 as Procurement Month in Clayton County, Georgia. I encourage all citizens to engage in special efforts during this month to recognize the importance of the role played by the procurement profession in business, industry, and government. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Clayton County, Georgia to be affixed this 3rd day of March in the year 2020.
Way to go, Miss Man.
Yes. No, I have. The next proclamation is Annual Zombie Walk Month.
A little tap me step.
Clayton County Board of Commissioners recognizes the first annual 5K Zombie Walk and proclaims Take Down Tobacco Day. Whereas the Clayton County Board of Commissioners stand firmly committed to supporting the youth of this county as the Office of Youth Services continues to spearhead leadership in the community through successful planning and execution of teen engagement events. And whereas each year on the third Wednesday of March, schools and communities across the country and around the world organize events for Take Down Tobacco Day, a national day of activism that empowers youth to stand out, speak up, and seize control against big tobacco. And whereas the Clayton County Board of Commissioners calls on the youth of Clayton County to seize the day with involvement in the first annual 5K Zombie Walk at Clayton County International Park to showcase the negative and harmful effects of tobacco products. And whereas the Clayton County Board of Commissioners enthusiastically endorses the first annual 5K Zombie Walk and the designation of March 18th, 2020 as Take Down Tobacco Day in Clayton County. Now, therefore, I, DeMont Davis, Commissioner, on behalf of the Clayton County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim March 18, 2020 as Take Down Tobacco Day in Clayton County, Georgia. I encourage all citizens to join me in this recognition and celebrate by your support of this event offered through the Office of Youth Services. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Clayton County, Georgia to be affixed this third day of March in the year 2020.
Next, we will have a presentation, pension actuary evaluation presentation by Buck Consultant.
All right.
Okay, Buck Consultant.
Ms. Bivens,
Oh, no,
please
I'm just doing the
introduce our
introduction. This is out of my league. This is what they do. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners. We had, the pension board had consulted with Buck to do an experience study, an actuarial valuation, and to show our actual experience study on how the pension plan is performing based on our actual experience versus what we had had as our presumed rates of return, salaries, or what have you. So what he's going to present tonight is the results of that experience study and the impact on the funding requirements and some recommendations that we may want to look at and consider during the budget process to ensure that our pension fund is funded. And, oh, his name is Kevin Spanier. Sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I know everyone's excited to talk about the pension and the actuarial and all the fun stuff I talk through, so I'll try to keep this brief and engaging. Please ask any questions. If I go too fast or skip over something you have a question about, please don't hesitate to stop me and ask questions, but I do want to be mindful of your time. You have a large agenda tonight, so I'm going to try to be brief. So if we flip to slide 2, just real quick, I wanted to give you an overview of the actuarial valuation and the role that we as your actuaries take in helping you fund this pension plan. So, oh, do I have a clicker? That's good to know. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
You might need it more than I do.
Awesome. So, every year we provide a valuation for the pension committee. And what that valuation does is it calculates the liability or the obligation of the fund to pay benefits to their members over the next several years, and how that compares to the assets of the fund, so that we can help the trustees, the county, and to fund these benefits over time, right? So what we're trying to do is we're ensuring that we're meeting Georgia minimum funding requirements. So Georgia law has a minimum standard that every pension plan within the state of Georgia must follow to fund pension plans over time. And one thing I wanted to point to is at the bottom of the page, because I think this is pretty important. So over the lifetime of the plan, the contributions that the members and the county make to the fund, plus the investment return you get, so you're out there investing in different asset classes, are going to equal the benefit payments that are paid to the members based on the plan provisions of the plan and the expenses paid out of the trust. So what we as actuaries are trying to do, and what the Georgia Minimum Funding Standards is designed for, is to help you set those contributions over time so that you're funding these plans as you go. And you're not, is that better? So that you are, so that you're funding them over time. You're not trying to push the can down the road, right? And you're funding these benefits as people earn them. Any questions before I move on? Slide 3 is a very quick overview of the valuation. We collect census data from the county about the members of the plan at a given time. And we use assumptions of what's going to happen to those members into the future, right? How long are they going to work? When are they going to retire? How much are they going to earn in terms of compensation, which goes directly into their benefits? And then how long are they going to live and draw pensions down from the plan? So that's what we're here to talk about, is the assumptions that we use in our studies. We also use the plan provisions of the plan, so that's defined by the law. This is the benefits people earn. You work 25 years here at the county, you're going to get a benefit of 2.5% times your final average pay. So that's defined benefits. That's what we're talking about. And then we use the assets that are in the fund to determine how much funding needs to be given to the plan. Slide 4 just shows kind of what we're doing. We're projecting out benefits throughout the lifetime of every member, and we're discounting them back to today using the expected return to come up with your obligation. So that's just kind of a visual of what we're doing. Slide 5, this is just a quick snapshot of the current status of the plan. So the whole pie represents the total present value of plan benefits. So this would be the amount of money you would need today to pay for all current and future benefit earned by current members. So if you had $791.1 million sitting in a bank account, the county would say, oh, we're good, no more contributions needed. All these members can work until they retire, get a benefit throughout their life, and we have that money today to pay for it. But that's not how we fund pension plans, and that's not our goal. So first off, we look at the assets. That's the yellow portion of that pie, right? So you have $447 million in assets as of July 1, 2019. And we compare that to that liability that I just discussed, bringing that back. And the unfunded portion is the $223.6 million. That unfunded portion under Georgia minimums is required to be paid over like a 30-year mortgage. So you pay it over 30 years, just like you do your mortgage, right? I've got this $223 million debt. I'm paying for it over time. The pink and purple, that's future accruals. That's what we expect members to earn over the next so many years until they retire, terminate, leave the county, start pulling pension benefits. The 72.6, that's the present value of the members. So the members are paying for these benefits. So that's their contribution towards funding the pie. And the pink is what the county is paying over time. So every year you're paying a little sliver of the pink, the members are paying a little sliver of the purple, and then that blue is getting amortized over 30 years. So that's kind of what we're doing. So experience study. So what we did is we pulled the last 5 years worth of experience. We looked at when did members actually retire? How much did they earn? When did they terminate? What form of payments are they taking when they retire? And how did that experience look when compared to what we would have thought happened, right? We had actual assumptions over the last 5 years. We assumed a certain rate of retirements and terminations and deaths. And we studied all that, and we came with recommended assumption changes to move the assumptions more in line with reality. So what we saw over the last 5 years, we want to move our assumptions towards that. So what we're doing is we're blending the current assumptions with the experience so that we're moving towards what's happening over time. And then we provided the impact of those changes on this valuation, which is in the next couple slides. So, slide 7 provides all the assumptions that we reviewed. They're in two key groupings. The demographic, that is the what's actually happening with your participants. When are they retiring? Do they leave the county early? Are they becoming disabled? When are they dying? Things like that. It's actually what's happening with your participants. And the other one's the economic assumptions. What's happening with the money, right? What's the actual return on the investments? What do we expect future returns to look like? How does inflation look compared to what we're expecting? Salary increases, we actually spoke with Ramona and the Water Authority. What is your expectation for merit and cost of living adjustments for the county over the next several years so that we can incorporate that into our projections? And then administrative expenses, what is being paid out of the plan. So slide 8 is the money slide. So this gets you to what does this cost? Like, I went through that pretty fast, but here's the actual impact had we used these assumptions on July 1, 2019. The proposal is to reflect them on July 1, 2020, so the actual impact will be felt next year. So the first column, that's the current assumptions. That is the actual results from the valuation this year. And you can see that at the bottom, the percentage of payroll contribution from the county and water authority is 14.95% of payroll, which is roughly $19.4 million. Okay. If you look at the top, the liability was $670.7 million compared to an assets of $447, so you're about 67% funded. So when we move from that column to the next column, and these columns build on each other just so you can see the impact of each thing as we group them together. The first one is the proposed demographic assumptions. Remember, the demographic assumptions, that's when are people retiring, how long are they working with us, how long are they living, what form of payment they're taking. It's actually what participants are doing. And what we saw, a couple key things. One, people were retiring early. So you have people retiring early. When I say they're retiring earlier than we assumed. Doesn't mean they're retiring early, it just means we had a set of assumptions. What is actually happening is they're retiring a little earlier. And they're living longer, right? There's been a lot of mortality studies recently. People are living longer. So that means you're paying more benefits on the front end and on the back end, increasing your cost. So the liability went up $24.8 million, so that's the 670.7 to the 695.5. And that goes right into that blue pie, right? The 223.6 is growing to 248.5 that's going to get amortized over 30 years, which all in all raises the percentage of payroll contribution from 14.95 up to 16.26%. Any questions on that column before I move to the next one? Okay. So the next column, this is salary increases in administrative expenses. The bulk of this is your expectation for merit and cost of living improvements over the next several years, adjustments for salary. It's all about what are members getting paid. These benefits are based on a final average earnings. So what you're getting paid in the last 3 to 5 years of your employment with the county is the pay that's used in the formula to determine your pension benefits. So the more you get paid, the higher your pay gets, the more pension benefits. So every time you give a raise to an employee, you're giving them a raise to their pension, is one way to think about that. So those updated assumptions raises the liability another $14.4 million up to $709.9. And it also increases this line called normal costs, which I haven't really touched on, but that's the cost of that 1 year accrual. So that's one more year of people earning benefits. You're earning more benefits in that 1 year because you're getting more pay in that 1 year. So that increases the contribution rate to 18.03%. Any questions about that column before I move to the last one? Excuse me. Awesome. So the last one is the inflation and expected return on assets. This is the what's happening with my money, right? What's happening with the money of the plan. So currently, we're assuming a 3% inflation rate, which is a building piece of an 8% expected return on asset assumption. So right now, we're assuming that every year, the plan is going to earn 8% on their investments. So and a portion of that is inflation, remember, it's 3%. So what we've seen nationally and recently, just historically, is that inflation has not been hitting that 3% mark. It's been lower. So the proposal is to lower that inflation rate slightly from 3 to 2.75 to reflect the fact that inflation is lower than 3, which in turn lowers your expected return from 8 to 7.75 because it is a building block of that. If you think back to that first slide, contributions plus investment return is going to equal the benefit payments, right? So if I don't think I'm going to get as much investment return over time, that means the contribution is going to go up to offset that equation. So the liability, I'm discounting at a lower discount rate, higher liability, $730.7 million. Normal cost is slightly higher, it's all because of the discounting. Bringing the percentage of payroll up to 19.61 or $25.5 million per year. So the total impact is a $6.1 million increase in contributions, or 4.66% of payroll. I do want to mention that 6.1 is paid both by the county and the water authority. Estimate it's about $1 million water authority, 5.1 for the county. The remainder of this presentation has more detail about what I just went through. It gives you those drivers that I talked about on the next slide. And then it gives you a couple more details about the expected return. Slide 10 talks about just some of the analysis we did so you can see what kind of returns we're thinking about over the next 30 years, because this is a long-term plan. We're thinking about it in long-term numbers. And then slide 11 gives you some national survey data so you can see what other public pension plans are doing in terms of these returns. And just real quickly, what you can see is that they've been lowering them, right? So 20 years ago, 8% was the norm, right? Everyone used 8%. You can see on the left side of this bracket, 8% is right in the middle. Big chunk of people are using it. You go to 19, 8% is now way up at the top. You know, barely anyone using it. And what's happening, is what's shown on the right, is inflation's going down. So people were assuming 3.84% of inflation 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Now we're at 2.8. So that's what we're doing. We're recommending bringing it down to 2.75 to be in line with that 2.8 and what is kind of happening out there in the market, which in turn brings down that 8 to 7.75. I went really quick. This was an hour presentation we did with the trustees. And I just did that in probably 6 minutes, so 10 minutes. So any questions for me, I'd be happy to come back and talk later.
Any
yes.
any questions from board members?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Considering what's going on now in the market, what would you recommend, or is it too early to make any changes, or how will we be affected?
John? Yeah, let me let John
Commissioners,
speak.
we also have John Breath with ANCO. They are the ones that they manage our pension fund,
Okay.
the assets. So he actually just sent something out today, and he can share that information with you.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. My name is John Breath with ANCO Consulting. We're the investment consultant to the pension plan based out in Orlando. So, great question. Obviously, this meeting takes place at a very interesting time. You know, depending on the day, we either have everything solved or everything's going to heck in a handbasket. So, I would say to your question, Commissioner, on kind of how do we impact it? Well, you know, Kevin's got an interesting statistic here. If you look back at page number 10, and one of the great things about the reporting and the plan, the data we have, is that information on your plan and its performance goes back all the way to 1989. So since 1989, the plan's actually been able to generate a return of about 8.3%. And obviously that's outpaced our 8% assumption. But you think about going back to 1989, how long that's been, how many financial crises that has encompassed. And I think what that really speaks to is over time, we're going to have issues like this. You know, we've had the H1N1 virus, we've had the SARS virus. I don't think that there's anything that the plan or Clayton County should be doing to try and make any knee-jerk reaction to this. What we're going to see is a couple months of questions about corporate earnings and things like that. There's going to be an impact to growth, but to say that that's going to create a prolonged global recession just is not something that we are believers in. And so at this point, we're not recommending any changes to the plan's long-term allocation on which kind of all these assumptions are built in response to kind of just this near-term crisis. And remember too, Kevin, if you'd flip back with me to page 4, you know, you think about what we're doing here. We're making a subtle adjustment to your assumed rate based upon inflation just not being as high as it was 30, 40 years ago. But you think about these assumptions, they're designed to be changed gradually over time. And why is that? Because you think about what we're forecasting here, we're forecasting roughly 80 years worth of performance and the benefits. We're going to have several positive movements in the market, several negative movements in the market. And so for now, succinctly, I would say I'm not recommending any changes. It doesn't make it any easier to live with the volatility that we're seeing in the markets, but this is not, these aren't events that we haven't seen before. We will see them again, and in our minds, it doesn't require any immediate changes to your asset allocation.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Thank you so very much for your presentation. I would just have a statement, especially considering it is a lot of information to take in presentations. And so my statement is in line with many of the statements I've made. I wish we would have more time to take a look at it. Simple as that. Because even though the pension board had an hour to spend time with it, at the end of the day, it's the Board of Commissioners that are responsible for the decisions that are made on behalf of the employees.
Right.
And this is affecting their livelihood. So I thank you for cramming it in such a short amount of time, but I really want to take some time to digest it and take a look at it. This is not something we need to hear immediately and just move on.
Correct.
We need to spend some time on it because it affects so many people's lives. People come to work to be able to make sure that they can pay their bills now and in the future. And majority of their pay goes towards just being able to have a place to lay their heads. So this is important. That's the only thing I'll say, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. Great
Any other
presentation.
comments? Thank you, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you.
The board will now hear public comments. Citizens will be given 3 minutes maximum time limit to speak before the Board of Commissioners. Please state your name and county of residency for the record. Speak clearly into the microphone, and speakers should be courteous, respectful, and not make any disparagatory remarks or use abusive language when addressing the board.
Mr. Alvin Farmer.
If you could give this to Commissioner Warner, please. You still got some English errors in there. Grammatical flaws is a thing word, and I underlined them all.
No problem.
Mr. Farmer, unincorporated Clayton County, proactive community activist. Around 11:30 noon time, I went by that bus stop at the aquatic center. It still has not been moved, putting our people in harm's way. A young lady who was a lifeguard last season got a full scholarship to Stanford University. So suppose she would have been in an accident and wouldn't have been able to accept this scholarship. The fix is simple. Move the bus stop around the corner. Also, Marta talking about they putting in those covers from rain. That's true. On Terrell Boulevard, right across from the Golden Corral, I sat there today. They're missing 3 screws in them planks that you sat on. Over time, due to vibration, those other three screws are going to come out, and people ain't going to have nowhere to sit. We got potholes in our area. Someone came up with a thing that says, "I'm not drunk, I'm dodging potholes." So we need to get that fixed. Those sensors on the stoplights are still not working. Commissioner Warner, I sent you my educational power, and from old school to new school, ask that you pass it on to all those people, especially to Mrs. Gregory. Mrs. Gregory, that information used correctly by your students, teachers, parents, and everybody involved will increase that grade you have on your report card. I went to fire station number 6. I informed you this. I don't know how long ago. I'm going to start documenting the dates. It still has not been done. $600,000 when I get our money for that product. I talked to the fire chief about that today. I still see in your area a military man, 24 years. You got a fitness program in your organization, and you need to get that. Maybe that will bring down your health costs, which will increase that spending for when those people retire. That lady with the red hair asked for a meeting. I still have not gotten that from you, and I'll keep on asking, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon in this political arena. I also heard that y'all take library funds and put them into the general fund, but the library is hurting due to the fact that y'all are taking the money that they're making and using it. So you need to let libraries funds stay with the library, and maybe they can give these people in Clayton County a better product when they come to the library. Those people are doing a great job, by the way, in my evaluation. Mr. Ray's old school corner out there, we heard some plus and minuses to that. I go there a lot. All these meetings ain't for everybody, but it's for me and it's for the people that there, and we have wrote some letters
Thank you,
stating
sir.
that.
Your time is up. Teresa Talley.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Teresa, and I live in Hampton. My concern are the dollar stores in Clayton County. This organization is what we see in these stores. There are over 60 dollar stores in Clayton County. They are understaffed with low pay, part-time hours. They have multiple safety issues, which include clutters on the floor, the aisles, boxes and spills on the floors, which are a potential accident and lawsuit. The county holds homeowners accountable for the upkeep of our outside property, but the dollar stores are not held accountable for the inside of the stores. Exit doors have boxes in front of them. Outside dumpsters are overflowed with trash. Spills are in the inside of the coolers. These stores are an easy target for a robbery because the cash registers have no security boundary. Fire marshals continue to give citations to the same stores. How many citations should they give them? What is enough? Homeowners are cited for code enforcement, for grass not cut, cars not working. The HOAs have many rules to follow. I received an email stating that they cannot tell the dollar stores to keep the inside clean. Why? Opening a retail store has the responsibility to have and hire a strong team. The appearance and atmosphere of these stores have been compromised. Poor shopping quality, handwritten signage, stained floors, no comfort while shopping, no adequate space between the aisles, walkways that are cluttered with carts and boxes. The checkout counters are also cluttered, and the smell. These are what the customers have to endure when they go into these stores. So what do? We hold these stores accountable and we change the concept. They need to be cleaned up now. We don't need any more dollar stores. We have over 60. This includes Family Dollar, Dollar General, and Dollar Tree. They're everywhere. We need to change the way people view our county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I will just say that we can't regulate the operations of a store, but at the same time, there are some things from our fire marshal's office and the business code enforcement that we can take action on. And any action that they do take, especially business code enforcement people, is a civil matter. So that has to go through the court system. So it's going to take it's not a quick fix. But we are taking notice of those stores and anybody who is non-compliant, not just those stores, but any store that's non-compliant in terms of the upkeep of that, especially the outside of those stores. So I would encourage you also to contact the corporate office and let them know your feelings about that as well. Thank
I
you,
do,
ma'am.
and I will.
Real quick, as a resident of District 3, thank you so very much for bringing this before this board. And yes, we did speak with Chief, as the chairman just stated, and the fire marshals have, or they said they were going over to take a look if they haven't done so already. That was confirmed. And then I don't know if you noticed, there's an item on the agenda addressing the number. I thought this was done some time ago, but we're still working on it collectively. So thank you.
Okay, please.
Together, we're going to get it
It's a lot
done.
of stores, 60
That's right.
plus. I stopped at 60.
Gotcha.
It's many more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mickey Garber.
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully yield the floor to the next honorable speaker.
Thank you, sir. Timothy Vondale Jefferson.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I like to elaborate on one of my pet peeves, and that's economic development. I have gone to practically every meeting for the last 7 years. So there's been a lot of due diligence on the Economic Development Authority. Now, I am deeply concerned for several different reasons. The atmosphere in the meetings have changed in a positive way since we have got rid of some of the alleged corruption that was taking place. And speaking about corruption, the IGA agreement, Mr. Chairman, has been a deep concern of many board members and the citizens for many years. And now that we are in mediation with the COO, Dr. Hines of Clayton State University, and of course the former Economic Development Director, Kafani Stevens. So this has been in limbo for about 2 months to 3 months. Currently, we have, I think, 26 departments. They have a bunch of department heads that answers to the CEO and to you guys, because you are elected officials. So we have an economic development director who, with benefits and bonuses, have the tendency to make approximately $200,000 a year. And that particular person answers to a volunteer board. So while we are engaging and compromising on the IGA agreement, I think it's an incumbence upon this board to bring those employees back under the auspices of the COO and the board so that we can at least have some type of accountability, some type of performance matrix, some deliverables. Currently, right now, as I've talked to several commissioners throughout the years, if we want to implement a vision, the Board of Commissioners no longer have any control over that particular department, but the citizens elect you guys to make fiduciary decisions that would affect us. And the Economic Development Office is one of the top 10 departments within the structure of this county, because citizens are always complaining why we don't have this, why we don't have that. Well, the Economic Development Director no longer needs to be a data-driven person. That person has to have the skill set, the ability, the people skills necessary in order to go out, think outside of the box, and cold call, and show the community, the corporate community, that our community has spending dollars and that we would like the accommodation and quality of life that other communities desire. Thank you so much.
Sir. Madam Clerk, that concludes public comment.
The board will now consider consent agenda items 1 through 26.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, we have one board appointment for the animal control.
All right, we have a board appointment for the Animal Control Board. Ms. Christy Thomas' term on the Animal Control Board will expire on March 12, 2020. The term is a 3-year term. New term will expire March 12, 2023. Any recommendations? Any recommendations? Madam Clerk, let's hold it and bring it back next meeting.
Okay. The next item is a public hearing on resolution. Well, on the public hearing, citizens may speak for or against this item, and is considered by law. It's not a zoning decision, and each side will have 10 minutes to present its case. In the event there's more than one speaker, speakers must divide their time in order to complete their full presentation within the 10-minute time allotment. When the time runs out, the speakers are expected to immediately cease speaking. Applicants or citizens speaking in favor of an item will speak first. Applicants in zoning ordinance cases shall have the right to reserve time for rebuttal. Opponents of the zoning decision have no right for rebuttal. When speaking, speak directly into the microphone and begin by stating your name, address, and name of any organization you represent. Abusive, profane, or derogatory language will not be permitted. Holding signs, clapping, and yelling to show support or opposition to a speaker will not be permitted, but a show of hands or quietly standing will be permitted to show support for or in opposition to a speaker's position. Do you want me to read that? Okay, you got it.
I'll read it. That's all right. Okay, this is a public hearing on whether the county and Board of Commissioners should extend a moratorium on small box discount stores. On January 7, 2020, the board initiated a 45-day moratorium relating to the establishment of new small box discount stores or the expansion of currently existing small box discount stores, including any applications for alcohol license. The board extended that moratorium on February 18, 2020 to expire today at midnight. The board would like to hear public comment on whether the county should extend the moratorium for an additional 180 days to allow the county to continue studying the effects of small box discount stores on the health, safety, and welfare of the county's residents and businesses. When I mention small box discount stores, I am not targeting any particular company or business. I am speaking to the definition of small box discount stores that has been set forth in the resolution passed by this board. Also, keep in mind that this resolution will not close or otherwise prevent any small box discount stores from continuing to operate lawfully. So at this time, I would like to open the floor to those who would like to speak in favor of the moratorium. After those persons have finished speaking, I will open the floor to those who would speak against extending the moratorium. When both sides have finished speaking, we will consider Resolution 2020-38 that is on the agenda. Anybody would like to speak in favor of this resolution, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Mr. Jefferson.
Chairman, I think the
State your name for me.
My name is Timothy Vondell Jefferson, unincorporated Clayton County. I think that the moratorium is not long enough. 180 days, 6 months is what we have to do by law, I would assume. I'm not an attorney. But I think outside of the moratorium, I think that if we address some of the ordinances, some of the standards that we have in our construction and design moving forward, because inevitably this moratorium will not stay in place forever. But I think that if we strengthen some of our codes and ordinances as far as development is concerned, I think that we can have the aesthetic appeal necessary, and also on the internal problems within these small box stores as far as the cleanliness, the stockiness, and the high turnover rate of employees must be addressed. The corporations must come before this board to give some type of practical sense as to how they treat their employees and the type of recidivism that we would like to have moving forward. Part-time job making $7.25 an hour is not conducive to a productive environment. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak? Mr. Garber?
Chairman,
And again, recognize that this is for those who are in favor of this
the
resolution.
moratorium.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I catch your drift.
No, I just want to make sure I put that back out there.
That are in favor of the moratorium.
That's correct.
Mickey Garber, unincorporated Clayton County. Board members, your moratorium and not expressing and calling names is very vague. In my view, I would need more clarification in who and what you are trying to target. If specifically in past remarks I have mentioned such stores, yes, I'm in favor of a moratorium on them. Or do I need to call the names and remind you of who I have targeted before?
What I read prior to is exactly what the resolution addresses, small box stores.
Again,
This
sir,
board is not going to target any business specifically.
okay, because I want to be.
Your comments are your comments, sir.
Yes.
But as far as this board goes, we are addressing small box stores.
Then, sir, I end my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right, anybody want to speak against this resolution? Anybody against? All right, hearing none. At this time, I will close the public hearing and ask Mr. Reed to present the resolution.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Board. I have one item, which is Resolution 2020-38, which is a resolution extending a moratorium on the acceptance of applications relating to the establishment or expansion of small box discount stores, to define small box discount stores, to set an expiration date, and for other purposes.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any questions, discussion?
No,
comments?
I just think to make a quick note, I did meet with, I was at ACCG conference, and I spoke to some of the committee members who have participated in work sessions with other entities, government entities, that have worked to limit the number of small box discount stores. And I would just implore the staff, because you all will have to speak with chairman, but I will implore you that you look at those best practices, because there's already some information out there. There are ordinances out there that we don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel. There are studies already out there through ACCG. This is not an isolated issue, and we just talked about this on this past, I think it was Thursday, before I left out of town. That's the only thing I respectfully ask that we do, is not reinvent the wheel, but let's be efficient and effective in getting where we need to be so that we can meet the needs of our community.
Any other comments, statements, questions? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. We need an executive session.
No. No, we do not.
Oh, what?
Oh.
What?
Let's go home, yeah. 7:30.
All right,
I did, dancing.
I will, hold on before he changes his mind. Let me get this out. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor, aye.
No, I seconded it. Somebody got a second.
Okay. Who made the motion?
Second, I'll
I
second.
heard Commissioner Warner make the motion and second, so I need a
Yes.
second, please.
Commissioner Franklin Warner made the motion. Commissioner Gregory seconded the motion.
Thank you.
And the vote, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Good night.